So for my French Honors 3 class, we do a gallery walk, and Unit 3 is an art unit, which is a little bit different. So we start off with some slides where I teach all the kids about art concepts and some new vocabulary that's just for this unit. But then when you get to the end of the unit, to assess their learning, we do a gallery walk. So that's the gallery art project. And students choose one of the French artists from our list that we learned about, and they have notes about them, and they create a work of art, a sampling of food, and something we call the museum plate. So they get extra credit for actually recreating the artwork, or they can just do a color copy if they're not trying to reach for the extra credit, which is okay. The sampling of food or beverage that relates to the artist or the piece, and they have to explain why they chose what they chose, and then bring it in as like an appetizer. So when other students are walking around and looking at the art, they can sample the food, look at the art, and read the museum plate. So in the museum plate, they have to have a biography of the artist written in French that has to include the dates, the style of painting, and some personal information, a short description of which work of the artist that they chose, and a written explanation in French of the relationship between the food and the art. That's what goes on the written document. So they have their art, the food, and we always set it up the same way. Like all the kids know that you're gonna have your museum plate, you're gonna have your artwork, you're gonna have your food. And so then we set up room. If you scan around, you'll see a few examples up here of student works that they created of famous artists. And then we have a few up the top of the cabinet up there. And there's, I did have a student, if you go all the way around at the top up here, there's a student that 3D printed the finger, and that one's up there at the top. That's really cool too. So then once the day of the museum gallery opening happens, I set up the desks all around the outside of the room, and each student gets a table to set up their stuff. And then as I'm walking around grading their projects, the students are walking around and making comments on the art. So they can walk up, sample the food, look at the art, read the biography, museum plate, and then they have a script kind of that they're following, saying different things like, à mon avis, cette œuvre est intéressante, in my opinion, or bouleversant, this work is really moving, or whatever they felt about it. Or I think that the artist was sad, something like that. They're telling us what they think about the art. And so they're gonna get a speaking grade while they're walking around, and I'm also listening for them speaking while I'm walking around and grading the projects. So it's a way for everybody to experience being at an art exhibition without actually leaving the classroom. For foreign language, I can only speak to that. That's all I've ever taught. But in level 1, we really focus on vocabulary. And in level 2, we focus a lot on grammar. We're still building vocabulary, but more grammar. And in level 3, I'm still producing a lot of the information that the kids are using because we don't use a traditional textbook. I just use Google Slides and everything's embedded in. But level 3, we're really focusing on those comprehension skills. Reading comprehension, listening comprehension, and a little bit more in production as well, but not as much until we get to level 4. Level 4, I have spoon-fed you, and we have practiced with training wheels. Now the wheels come off, and you've got to learn to ride the bike on your own. And the students, it's almost like an ECE and a French course combined. They're learning to teach while they're learning the language, and they teach each other. So when I get to a level 4 content, I don't produce the content anymore. The students do. I give them a topic, and then I give them groups, and within their groups, they create everything. They have to, like, this is our first topic for French 4. It's French-speaking countries. They get to choose any country they want that's Francophone, and they have to do all of these things. They get 2 formatives and 2 summatives, and they create the quizzes for each group creates a quiz that the other groups have to take. I take the quizzes together and create the test at the end, making sure they hit the things that I wanted them to hit. I require specific grammar for each unit. I require the theme. Everything else they come up with. And then when they present, I record them with my phone, and they have to have 5 minutes of speaking per person. And if they stop, I stop. You got 2 minutes and 25 seconds, you still have a little bit of time left, and they'll get back up and keep going, but every kid has to reach 5 minutes of speaking. And throughout the year, their speaking just gets so much better. So does their presentation skills. They start out so scared speaking in front of each other in a foreign language because they've had a little bit, but not this big of a presentation. My kids, after they finish French 4, are not afraid to get up in front of a group and speak French, English, whatever, they're ready. And they're really good at figuring out how to share a Google form and everybody have access to it, and how to assess and what's a good question, what's not a good question. They get mad at each other if you throw in a bad question. They're like, that's a bad question. Your group didn't follow the rubric. Like, they get on each other. They police each other. I don't even have to. I just let them create.